Hi everyone, thank you for joining our August Brokers Business Accelerator with our Northern California broker Jeff Green, LA broker Omar Helmand, Riverside Temecula broker Mary Jane Morris, and our San Diego broker Tom Bullock. Before we, be, Before we begin, I want to say how happy we are to now offer a ton of great free marketing tools to all of our agents. These are now available in the AJI University. Our goal is to always give back to our agents by offering the newest tools and technology to you. None of this would be possible without you and your amazing amount of agent referrals to AJI. As Allison James continues to grow, with agents referring other agents to our brokerage, we will be able to provide more of these tools to you. Remember, you can earn a monthly or yearly residual payment simply by having an agent join us. All you need to do is contact Jeff Jabora or Alicia Aratari in our National Growth and Development Department and provide them with the contact information of the agent who you would like to refer over. I would now like to introduce Shelley Hoyseth, Senior Loan Officer with our Preferred Lender Movement Mortgage. Good morning, Shelley.
Good morning. Good morning, California Allison James agents. Great to be with all of you this morning. One thing I want to talk about a little bit is kind of ask you guys a question and have you thinking about what your area of expertise is, or do you have a niche in the market? The reason that I think this is going to be important over the next few years is that, as you know, we're in a really hot market right now. And, you know, what goes up must come down, and I never want to be a Debbie Downer, but the reality is that real estate is cyclical. And, you know, we definitely want to be getting while the getting's good right now, but also setting ourselves up as a person of expertise so that when people think of, oh, you know, this guy specializes in whatever it might be, maybe it'll be another short sale market, you know, 5 years from now, or I've got a couple of ideas I want to throw out at you where you can start to make yourself a little bit of an expert where people think about you right away when the situation arrives for them. One thing that you may not be aware of, kind of a fun statistic, is that every day 10,000 baby boomers are turning 65. That is a lot of people that are hitting retirement age and or, you know, becoming seniors. So one way that we can touch into this market is with reverse mortgages. They can be used for purchases. So right now a lot of these people are contemplating retiring, but maybe they don't have a lot of cash in the bank, but they're sitting on a ton of equity. So, you know, rather than just say, oh, you know, I'm so sorry, I can't help you, or possibly just selling their house and basically just, you know, leaving them to rent, which oftentimes would be even more expensive, talk about a reverse purchase. You know, let them know that they can downsize if they want to. You know, now that the kids and everybody's out of the house, they can downsize, take that equity. If they have about 50% equity and they're 62 years of age, then they most likely would qualify for a reverse purchase. And that means that they would never have another mortgage payment for the rest of their life. It is an FHA mortgage. It's just a lien on their house like any other property. It is not, the bank doesn't take it over or any of these other scary tactics. So I am going to be preparing some lunch and learns and perhaps a webinar to be talking about this product. But I want to make you guys aware, as you're out and about in the market, don't be afraid to say, you know what, hey, what about this option? Or I would like Shelley to talk with you about an option. You don't have to be an expert on it, but you know, don't just discount people if they don't have any cash or you think they just might not be a good buyer. Another area is millennials. They are said to have going to be larger than the baby boomers within the next 10 to 13 years. So, you know, if they're 30 now, they're going to be 40, hitting their prime in the next 10 to 12 years. So getting them into their first home right now would be a great other aspect. For those of you that maybe are leaning towards the younger generation or towards seniors, you know, those are huge markets that we need to tap into. And for first-time home buyers, don't be afraid to use a bond program like a down payment assistance program or the 203Ks or some of the renovation loans. Those are great programs for first-time homebuyers where they can take advantage of some sweat equity rather than having to buy it from an investor that has already put all the work in and now they're buying it at top dollar. So, don't be afraid to talk about outside programs. We still close those programs in a very reasonable amount of time. The renovation loans close in about 30 days. You probably do want 45 days on a bond program or on a reverse because we're dealing with seniors that often don't have internet and that kind of thing. But if you're talking with a client that has an unusual situation that you might normally just write them off as they can't, give me a call and let's see if we can think outside the box and figure out a way that they can. Let's set ourselves up as the experts in our field and pick something that will be a niche, that when people think of you, they want to go to you for help, and they know that you're still going to be in the business in the long run. That is my 2 bits. As always, we are still closing our normal government, VA, FHA, and conventional loans in 20 days or less. So get out there and write some shorter contingency deadlines maybe to help your clients be competitive, and go out there and get while the getting's good. Okay, guys? Have a great day, and I'm going to switch it back to Sheena.
Thank you, Shelley. I'm going to go ahead and now pass it over to Mary Jane.
Good morning, everybody, and hello from Temecula, California, where it's a balmy 84 degrees this morning. Shelley's message this morning could not be more on topic because that's specifically what I want to talk about today, is the age of realtors and like that. I recently attended a seminar where Stefan Swanepoel, I never say his name correctly, he's the real estate genius, basically, writes the Danger Report for us every year, very well-respected investor, was the keynote speaker. His topic for the day was aging realtors. I don't know how many of you know this, but the average national age of a realtor is 58 years old, and in California it's 62 years old, which does accurately represent baby boomers in California. The average realtor has 12 years experience. He's not tech savvy, and the most important thing that he mentioned that he hears a lot is that the phone's not ringing like it used to. And so he made a big point about that the phone ringing is not how leads come in anymore. They come in online, they come in through your cell phone, they come in through your email, they come in through your website, that the phone ringing is not the only method of communication these days, which for the older realtor absolutely needed to hear that. On that same thought, I couldn't resist inviting our superstars from Riverside County, Tommy Taylor and Ashton Taylor. They are our young, hip producers here in Temecula. Tommy, they've given me permission to say that Tommy's 35 and Ashton's 28, and if you've ever been in a training session with them or been to a happy hour, they are just fun people, and their Facebook page is always full of wit and humor, and I was very excited to bring these agents to you today. Tommy has only been a realtor just about 2 years, which we'll discuss here in a moment, but he produced $7 million in transactions this year so far, and Ashton has a day job, but has just finished her second transaction. So I thought today it would be very nice to hear from the millennial perspective on real estate. So I'd like to welcome Tommy and Ashton to the show.
Thank you, Mary Jane.
Hi, happy to have you guys. Ashton, obviously we're going to be speaking quite a bit to Tommy today, but you feel free to jump in at any time. And I'll have a couple questions for you toward the end. Tommy, again, how long in real estate?
Just over 2 years.
And what did you do before you were in real estate?
I was self-employed. I had a legal service business that basically focused on evictions and collections for investors and homeowners associations.
That is an interesting line of work and certainly lines up with your real estate. You saw some sloppy real estate out there while you were doing that job?
Yeah, I get a lot of files that came across my desk for eviction cases, and I mean, half of the lease was filled out, and you see that, I mean, it was so blatantly obvious that the people that they leased properties to that now are being evicted, 1 month later because the initial check was bad. It was just poor work, and it was doing a disservice to the landlord and owners.
And I know that facilitated your decision to jump into real estate and do a better job, right?
Yeah, well, I figured that if I'm cleaning up this file for a few $100s and the realtors are getting several thousand, I'm obviously doing something wrong myself. So
Yep.
shortly thereafter, I went out and did the classes and got licensed, and then reached out to everyone, and they were like, "Man, we're so excited you're licensed because you're so thorough and attention to detail."
We are having quite a few newer agents want to join Allison James because of our outstanding pay structure. I believe that you have a similar story. Why did you choose Allison James?
Well, when I first got licensed, I knew what I was doing, but at the same time, I didn't. So I went with one of the big name brokerages, that advertises how great they are, and they buy all this ad space on the Super Bowl. So I went there and jumped on with their split, which at the time I was kind of like, that doesn't make sense, but I guess, that's what they're going to do. And my first deal I did, which was the first month I was licensed, I got my commission check, and I was like, wait a minute, what happened here? They took like $4,000 out of my very first check, and they said, yeah, but you have an office. And I said, well, if I do 2 deals a month, that's $8,000 you're taking. I could buy a damn office. So shortly thereafter, I started looking out for the 100%. Well, I didn't even know there was a 100% commission structure. I thought you had to be your own broker, which was my ultimate goal. And then someone said, no, Allison James has 100%. So I reached out to some people in Allison James and found out, yeah, it is 100%, and jumped over right away.
You feel like you get what you need here? Tools, support?
Yeah.
We care about you?
If anything, I feel like I get more here because, they have the website support. Mary Jane is a wealth of knowledge. Anytime I have a question, it's almost instantaneous answer, and she goes above and beyond every time I need help or have an issue with a deal that's not flowing so smoothly or something that pops up that's kind of outside my understanding. I ask, and right away it's answered and resolved.
Well, that was very kind of you. So, Tommy, where are you getting your deals?
So I do, well, I got my very first deal from my previous business. I mean, it was like I had my license printing off the printer, and I had a phone call saying, you want to list my house? And then ever since then, I've kind of just reinvest into myself. So I buy Zillow zip codes, which is now Zillow and Trulia. I do a lot of flyer distribution. That's 2,500 flyers per distribution round. And I have a farming market that I do those in. It's kind of a lot of it, I know probably 99% of them go in the trash, but it's that one time that the one person's thinking about selling, they're going to be like, this guy won't leave me alone. I get flyers every month from him. Let's call him and see what he's all about, which happens quite often, actually. So it takes, I mean, you can get one deal and it pays for 2 or 3 years of flyer distribution. So I think that works out well. Word of mouth, anytime I'm out and I hear somebody say, yeah, we're moving, oh, hey, I find a way to spark a conversation with them, not right away about real estate, but I lead into it. Yeah, hey, I'm a realtor, and oh my gosh, I'm so busy, and the best there is. And then they, like, it just gets the conversation going. Zillow's a big one. Zillow and Trulia are a big one. I get leads. In fact, on my other computer, I'm sitting here, that screen's up now with my inbox from all my incoming leads with them.
It's great. We sort of beat this next subject to death, but you want to talk about response time on your online leads?
So it has to be instant. It really does. I get phone calls from Zillow from time to time, and I have my phone pretty much glued to my hand all the time. Anywhere I'm at, it's either in my pocket or in my hand. Only because when a lead comes in there, it texts me, it emails me, and then I have a service with Zillow because I spend enough, I guess, to qualify, if you will, but they call me with that lead right away. So I get people that call me or that are on there and say, wow, you know, we've called 5 agents or we've tried to reach out to 5 different agents and no one answers. You're the only person that has. And once they see that you are working, if it's 10 at night or 6 in the morning, they're usually pretty loyal because they know that if they hire you, that you're going to be there for them. But so I also coach my son's baseball, and my phone is in my pocket, like I was just saying. And if I get that lead or that call that comes in, if I'm on the field during a game, I just either walk over and hand my phone to my wife, Ashton, or I'll screenshot it and just send it to her, and she knows right away what that means. So she'll call them, even if you call them and say, hey, you know what, I got your lead. I'm right in the middle of something right now. I have a meeting going on, or I'm walking into a presentation, whatever you're doing. I promise I'll get back to you in the next 10 minutes to 20 minutes, however long it's going to take. They're usually pretty understanding, and they know that, you know, we're people too, and as long as they know you're working for them, then they tend to stick around and be loyal.
That's great. When we had our pre-interview, we talked a little bit about your position on being service-oriented. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, I treat everyone the way that I think I would want to be treated. I'm a very type A personality. I'm super impatient. I want instant answers now. I hate waiting on things. So I just envision everyone's that same way. And for me, if I was going, well, I did sell houses before I was licensed, and I had a bad agent, and I know how frustrating it was because you're paying. I mean, these people are paying us, you know, $10,000, $12,000, $8,000. That's a lot of money. People work months to get that on W-2 jobs. And I know that if someone's going to hire me and entrust me with $500,000 of their money, I'm going to absolutely do everything I can to make sure that when they sign their closing statement or their commission distribution, that they're happy to sign it. They know that, wow, this guy really went above and beyond, and I'm so proud, I'm so excited I get to pay him $12,000 for what he just did for me. I mean, you want the people to feel that way and not pissed off, because if they're pissed off, they're going to tell 15 people, man, this agent we hired, he was horrible, and then you just lost 15 deals. But if they're happy with you, all it takes is one referral, which I get all the time, referral. They're going to say, hey, you know what, I used Tommy and Ashton, and they were awesome. You should give them a call and reach out. And that incoming referral lead is like 90% a done deal, because they're already entrusted, or their friends or family, whoever it is, have already entrusted you. So you pretty much walk in, put a smile on, and shake a hand, and get a deal.
That's great. I really liked your firm attitude about service, and I definitely wanted the people to hear that. I want to talk a little bit about social media today. Being that you, at your age, are obviously much more comfortable with it than you know, there was privacy considerations and all for the older realtor. You had a little funny story about attending a social media class.
Yeah, at that first brokerage, or that first brokerage I was at before I came over to Allison James, they said in the office, hey, our meeting is going to be on social media. And I went, that might be cool. Maybe they have something I don't know. But they didn't. It was like, here's what Facebook is. Here's what Instagram is. Here's how you log on it. I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. You do what? I've had like 9 Facebook accounts. What are you talking about? This is how I log on. And there's people in there asking, what's that thing with the camera, which was the Instagram icon. It used to be the camera. I think they've changed now. But anyway, I could just tell that these people were so dated and really had no idea. I mean, I do direct targeted marketing on listings that's paid for through Facebook, but I target age groups, regions, keywords, you know, like moving or just married. Just married is an awesome one, because usually as soon as people are married, the next thing they want to do is buy a house. So those keywords, when people say, hey, just married, my little ad's going to troll them on Facebook and pop up, hey, here's a house, here's this, here's that. People see, in the way that I market houses, I really like obsess over online marketing. I lose my mind when I look at the MLS for clients and I see I call them the cell phone shots. You know, people that walk around with their cell phones, the room's dark, or one thing that drives me up a wall is a toilet seat that's left up. That's so disgusting. No one wants to see a house with a toilet seat left up. I have, in my opinion, one of the best photographers in Southern California to take all my pictures. So when you're going through, and I take my iPad on presentations. I have iPad Pro, so it's the big one with the high resolution screen. And I have a whole bunch of pictures I've saved. And I go, look at these pictures. What do you guys think of these? And then obviously mine are dripped in there from old listings. And they're like, oh my God, that picture is amazing. I go, well, that's mine. And these are other agents. This is how I market properties, and this is why they sell at top of the market. I'm really aggressive at pricing, meaning that I price them high because I want to sell them high. Anyone can walk in there and take a picture and price a house 20,000 under, but what justice does that do? I always want to set the record. And when I have listings and I close and they're like, dude, I had no idea we could get that much for our house. I say, well, good thing you hired me, right?
It certainly is. They're very lucky to have you. One of the things we did in our pre-interview was to ask you to discuss a weakness that you feel like you have in your business.
So one of my weaknesses is, like I said, I'm so type A that I can't sit still. So my desk is a pile of papers. I have Post-it notes all over my computer screen with notes that I write with phone numbers. I really don't have the patience to sit and enter things into the database that I pay for every month and don't use. So that's probably one of my weaknesses. I mean, I know I probably am losing deals because, you know, it's just so scatterbrained sometimes. So my file system I say is in my head, which obviously doesn't work out too well in a year from now. But that's one of my things. My wife, on the other hand, is not a type A at all. So she's much more focused, and she can sit and do that, which is why we work well together. And also our personalities, when we meet people, I am real to talk, show, let's go. And she's more like laid back, you know, hey, look at this. So we've gone on with buyers, husband and wife buyers, the two of us go out, and you know, she takes the wife and walks around, and they stay in the kitchen and talk about how great it is to bake in here. And you want to have the vision of these people in the house, buying the house and living there. Me and the husband go out back, you know, hey, look at that grill over there. Set up a beer, get a steak, and like, you know, it just works out well.
That's great. This is a great time to bring Ashton in. Ashton, I know you have sort of a related day job, right?
Yes, I do. I'm a paralegal for a local firm here in town. Actually, they have an office in Riverside and in Temecula, Reed and Hillier. They've been around for over 100 years, and my main focus is real estate, real property law, and those types of transactions.
And Tommy has spoken highly of your ability to bring order to his life. One of the tips I did give you guys in the pre-interview, and of course someone's knocking on my door at the same time. I apologize for that, people. One of the things we talked about in the pre-interview was that you're going to be able to bring some order to him. Oh, I'm sorry. The tip I wanted to give was that for new agents, if you ever want to sell your business down the road, having a book of business that is part of that. So getting those names in your database is very, very important. So I know that you and I talked about bringing that extra level of perfection to Tommy's business.
Yes, absolutely. It's not you know, very infrequent where he'll bring me a pile of papers, leads, emails, texts, and say, here, can you do something, organize these for me? And so I say, absolutely. So I organize his chaos, and so he's the genius, and I'm just the support.
I often have said to you guys that if Allison, James, Riverside County had a prom king and queen, it would be you guys. You're very cool. You're easy to talk to. Your Facebook page is so good, Ashton, that I honestly think you ought to turn that into a real estate blog. So your pictures are funny, and you have good wit. So to wrap up for today, Tommy and Ashton, where do you guys see yourself in 5 years and in 10 years?
millionaires.
That's what we like to hear.
No, I don't know. I really love distressed properties. You know, like taking a pretty much a pile of junk and turning it into a pile of gold. But I would love to build a team, to get a big team going, be a team leader, and just have agents that are really eager to work and go out there and strive to be number one, working with me. 10 years, obviously I still want to be, my goal when I set into real estate was to get my broker license. I still want to do that. I don't really have a need to do it anymore because my main goal to do it was to get 100% of what I earned, but with Allison James, it's, you know, it's all there already, and you guys have all the back systems and all the support. So I probably would like to do that just to have it.
You know, Ashton, I should have asked you. I know you just closed your second deal. Where'd you get those? Where did those clients come from?
Honestly, they both of my deals have been friends from either middle school or high school, and you know, just from me posting things on Facebook, updating people, you know, things that I'm doing as far as taking the real estate exam, passing, and that sorts of things, and open houses. They've touched, made contact with me and said, hey, we're about to buy our first house. We'd love for you to help us out. So the first deal was a friend from middle school, her boyfriend, and then my second deal is a friend from middle school as well, her husband. They were newly married last year, and they, you know, the next step was to buy their first home. So it was really awesome to help them out. And
you're perfectly positioned for the millennial market that Shelley was speaking about earlier.
Yeah, a lot of my friends are first-time home buyers or looking to be first-time home buyers in the future. So I'm, you know, eager. I would love to help them out.
I think you and I joked in our pre-interview about taking your annual from your high school and just putting it in a database.
Yeah.
Well, on that real quick, that's one thing that when I first got licensed, I just talked about. I'm not overwhelmingly on Facebook. I have 2 pages, by the way. A business page, which I keep all professional and just listings and real estate updates. And then I have my personal one, which I post about, you know, my kids and what we're doing and so forth. But on the personal one, I have, you know, 800 friends or something like that. And I just from time to time would post like, hey, I'm doing an open house, or hey, I'm doing this. And then people on there would see it that I know and be like, hey, you know, I see you working all the time, man. We're interested in buying. What do you recommend we do? Or people that have homes, like, yeah, we're moving out. You know, we're moving. We need to list our house. We're going to come over and have a look and see what you think. These people you already know. So the odds of you getting them to be your client is almost 100%. I helped a new agent get going who was licensed for several years and never did a thing. Never once did it. She just took the stuff in high school, got licensed, and then sat on her license for 4 or 5 years. And I asked her, and she was in her, I think, mid to late 20s, and I said, do any of your friends even know that you do real estate? And she was like, no, I don't think so, because she had another full-time job. And I said, why don't you get on Facebook and just put, hey, I joined Allison James. I'm super eager to get going in real estate. Is anyone looking to buy or sell? She did one post. Her friend reached out to her and said, I had no idea you were in real estate. My husband and I are looking to buy a house in Oceanside. Do you want to help us? She closed a $500,000 deal off one post on Facebook.
That's a great story. I appreciate you sharing that. Any final thoughts for us, Ashton or Tommy?
It's never too late to start. I mean, you know, it doesn't have to be. Real estate definitely, when I got into it, wasn't my first choice. Like I said, I have a day job. I have other interests. I like interior design, things like that. And then Tommy asked me, you know, why don't you come on and help me? And coming on and helping him, I realized, wow, this is a blast. This is so much fun. You get to meet new people and help people find, you know, a house they love and their forever home, maybe for their family to grow and everything like that. So it's just, you know, the sooner you get out there and start, you know, reaching out to people, then you'll find that there's a lot of people that probably need your help.
My father was a broker, and he used to say, whatever the advertising is, get it on this street and then improve it. Lots of people hold back their advertising thinking that they need to promote perfect it in some way before it gets out there. Really, it just needs to get out there. You can perfect it as you go. Tommy, any final thoughts for us?
Allison James rocks.
Right, that's my favorite one yet. You guys, we're very proud of you here at Allison James, Riverside County. We appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today, and we hope you do old people loans deals too. All right, all right. I'm gonna now thank you again, and I'll talk to you after the session. But we are going to move on to our California brokers and their tip for the day. As always, the outstanding Jeff Green from Northern California. And good morning, Jeff.
Good morning. So that was a great chat and dialogue about building your business, and I'm going to share some things that will help you secure your time and use your business energy wisely, because what you really want to do is move forward with transactions. So we talk about a few compliance issues on this webinar each month, and the purpose of them is not to put you asleep, but to keep you awake so that you have a very keen sense of what to do and get through the transaction process with diligence and at the quickest possible speed without, you know, rushing through it and also making mistakes. But today we're going to talk about the agent's visual inspection disclosure, which is one of the primary documents in your transaction whereby you show fiduciary care and concern and information to your client. You are going into the property, especially if you represent a buyer, and you're doing a visual inspection so that the buyer has some additional ability to discern what is going on with that property. So we have an article on our FAQ site, and I'm just going to do a few highlights. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. And if you want some good information, our FAQ site is FAQS, frequently asked questions, FAQS at AllisonJames.info. And we have a lot of articles in here and contact information and this type of thing. So, but today we're going to take a quick look at how to correctly fill out an agent's visual inspection disclosure. One of the best things to do on the Avid is to take a quick look at the first page. It pretty much tells you a lot of what I'm going to tell you today, but there's a few other things that I want to point out. And I also need to let you know that it's broker policy at our firm to have an Avid filled out for all residential 1 to 4 transactions in which we are the agent of record, whether you're the listing or the buyer's agent. And you may get another broker that doesn't do an Avid. That's fine, they don't have to, but it's really in your best interest. So let's talk about a few things not to do, things we're seeing in file review. We're seeing things like the house looks good, or there's a bad room, or it's dirty, needs work. You can't do that because your opinion will be misconstrued as steering or pushing the client in one direction. Another thing is don't use words subject to an interpretation, like, for instance, large or small. Large hole in the wall. What does that mean? The state of Texas is large, and so is my hand. I might have a large hand or a large foot. Back in the days when I used to show a lot of REO properties, I used to describe it. I would say foot-sized hole in wall or fist-sized hole in door. Now, I wouldn't do that now because we're dealing with real sellers and real people, but I use descriptive words. You can modify it. You can say what size it is, or you can just say there's a hole or a scratch. Another thing is don't give advice on your agent's visual inspection. Statements like buyer is advised to do this, or make sure appliances are working and all that. There are plenty of other forms that do that, and that's not the purpose of the agent's visual inspection. Here's a big one. Do not indicate if the appliances or mechanical systems are working or not. That is not what you're supposed to do. I had an Avid recently that said washing machine and dishwasher are working. Now, what happens if you close escrow and they're no longer working? You just made a representation of the operability of the equipment, and that we'll touch on that a little bit more later, but you can't do that. Avoid that at all costs. Just stay away from that. That's the job of the inspector. We're going to skip down here to a couple things. Big one, the word mold. I think most of us know that. You're not a mold inspector. Even if you see something dark on the wall, you do not know if it's a mold invasion unless it's been tested. So do not use that word. If you do have an avid from the other side that states that there's mold, talk to your broker immediately. There's ways to deal with that. We need to know about that. Do not use investigations of others or other people's avids to fill out your avid. Don't copy. We shouldn't have to say that, but just have to get it out there. And another thing is, don't describe what needs to be done. Describe the condition. For example, house needs to be cleaned is your opinion. Somebody else may like the way it looks. They may think, wow, this is spotless. Roof needs to be replaced. Plumbing is bad. Should be replaced. Remember, describe, but don't prescribe. Don't tell people what to do. Don't give them a plan of action. They're supposed to get that through their diligence of studying the inspections and other important items. Very critical point I want to make. I'm just about to wrap up here, but this is very, very essential. There's a lot of what to do items on this list, but probably the biggest one is fill out your avid early in the investigation period. It should be included with the seller's disclosures. And if you represent the buyer, do it as early as possible so the buyer has a chance to look at it. And if you're the listing agent, deliver your avid with the TDS no later than day 7. Or if modified, it could be longer, but that's RPA 14A, the timeline for delivering inspections and reports and disclosures. Now, very critical. The avid is incorporated as part of the TDS. If you deliver a TDS without the avid, the TDS is incomplete. And the late delivery of the TDS may trigger a rescission right of the buyer. When I say late delivery, a completed TDS includes the avid. So if you have your seller do a TDS and then, oh yeah, I'll get this done before closing, and 2 or 3 days before closing you deliver the avid, guess what? You've triggered a rescission period for the buyer, even if the buyer has released all their contingencies. So if you don't want to have your deal canceled or potentially canceled at the 11th hour, get your avid done on time. Another point, read the avid thoroughly. The other agents read it as with the same diligence as reading the TDS and SPQ, or if there's an ESD. And there's some other basic comments here, filling in the whole form. And what I want to tell you is, if the room does not exist, simply put NA. If there's nothing to report in the room, if there's no defects, put something like nothing to report or no defects noted. Make sure there aren't any. And that way, it doesn't look like you didn't go there. I sometimes see avids that are blank. Well, the house was fine. Well, that doesn't tell the story. You need to put something in there. And there usually is something, there's something defective in most places. So just remember, if you need to fix your avid during file review, do not edit a fully executed document and upload it to SkySlope. We need to have preferably an addendum, but if it has to be done on the same form, it needs to have and it needs to be fully signed, initialed, and dated, and preferably through DigiSign or digital signature. But the best practice is to draft an addendum to the avid, correcting any errors, and have it signed by all parties. Sometimes you can't get that because the avid on the other side is being corrected, and they're just going to write all over it and sign it. So if you have any further questions, contact your broker. We have this article about, is the other agent's avid required? That's something that's important to look at. And then for a deep dive into this topic, you can click this link right here, which will require a login to CAR, and it will pull up this lovely article on the real estate licensee's duty to inspect residential property. So you know what to do and what not to do. It will be worth 5 minutes. Oh, I probably could read that in 2 minutes. It'll be worth about 2 minutes of your time to read that, get familiar with it. So any further questions, reach out to your broker, or you can type questions in at the end of the webinar, and we'll be happy to discuss those with you.
Thank you, Jeff. I wanted to mention that when I took my car certification course, CAR made a point that even new homes have something to write down. Scuffs on baseboards, you know, that sort of thing. Even a new home has something you can write down. Also, as broker of a previous agency down in San Diego, I sat through court 4 times where the AVID was up on the screen either all day or multiple days. Attorneys see brokerages as deep pockets, and although the seller may not have disclosed that, they focus on the AVID, so it's a very important document, even though it feels like we talk about it endlessly. AVID is really important, and I'm glad Jeff brought that up today. Next, we have Omar, our LA broker, and welcome, Omar, and we're happy to hear what you have to say today.
Great, thanks, Mary Jane. I know we've had a lot of good information about what not to do on legal forums. We don't want to obviously bore you too much with this stuff, but obviously it's very important in our business every day. So that one of the things that's come up quite a bit is agents who advise their clients on the RPA whether to sign or not sign or initial the liquidated damages clause. When you're going through the contract, number one, we are not attorneys. We cannot act in the capacity of an attorney, and you have to understand where the breach of contract is actually coming from, or if it's something that the buyer does or the seller does. Now, the liquidated damages clause actually covers a lot of this, and it's important that we all understand why or what we can go after in terms of a liquidated damages amount. So, for example, both the buyer and seller agree to a liquidated damages clause in the RPA, and they have a set amount that they've already agreed upon. That amount gets deposited into escrow. Throughout the escrow process, there's a breach of contract somehow, some way, and obviously you'll know that through the process of contingencies and so forth. The most important part to understand is the liquidated damages clause sets forth an amount that is already agreed upon by both parties. There is an advantage to this process because then if you're representing the seller, for instance, the seller will not have to present a case for why they are owed that amount of money for the buyer's breach of contract. This specific amount is already agreed upon. They simply prove the fact that they have a breach of contract, and they take the money from escrow, and it's theirs. That's part of the liquidated damages agreement. Additionally, for the buyer's side, there is a maximum amount agreed upon. So if it's, for instance, $5,000 or $10,000, whatever the number may be, if it's deposited into escrow, if they do breach contract, they know their maximum penalty for that breach. Essentially, it sets forth guidelines for every person in the party to understand what they're up against in the case, in the worst case. There's extreme advantages to this, obviously knowing that you have a maximum amount that you will pay, and there can't be any further ramifications beyond that. That's basically what the purpose of this liquidated damage is for. What are the advantages for the seller? As I mentioned, you have a specific amount that you're guaranteed regardless of what happens if there is a breach of contract. Understand that there is a reasoning behind this, but also know that there are certain advantages and disadvantages. So for instance, again, the seller has a minimum, but they can also claim that there were more damages caused by the breach of contract from the buyer. Still, they can't go after the further amount because it's already been agreed upon in contract. Again, for the buyer side, the advantage is knowing what their amount is. Now, could they actually, could parties not sign this agreement? I mean, you can't advise them to or not to. That's part of the attorney's job. If they have questions about that, all you do is explain what this really means as an agent. You don't actually go in and tell them, hey, you should sign this or you shouldn't sign this, because then if it comes back to the breach of contract process and they lose money, then they're going to come back and say you as their agent have actually advised them to sign it. Well, your goal is not to advise them on this process. Your goal should be clearly to state exactly what your duties are is to explain how much they can lose potentially and how much they cannot lose potentially. The maximum that any buyer or seller can lose is 3% if they agree to the liquidated damages clause. Why is the 3% set forth? It's just the maximum amount in the case something happens. Now, if both parties do not agree to the liquidated damages clause, what happens? Well, the next step is the seller will have to prove without a doubt that there was specific damages done to them. So in the case that the buyer does not perform or they have a breach, then the seller will have to go through the process of explaining what damages were done, how much those damages cost, and the number could be exorbitant or they could be very little, and an arbitrator would rule on that. So essentially, you want to make sure that the job of the seller is done for them ahead of time if you can guide them in that direction by agreeing to the liquidated damages clause up front. For the buyer's purposes, if you're representing a buyer, always let them know that it is in their benefit to agree to a maximum of 3%, because let's just say they go through the process of doing their inspections, completing their appraisal, and then getting to the loan stage, and they've signed off on all their contingencies, and then, God forbid, something happens and they lose their job. Now they can't qualify for a loan any longer. Well, what's the maximum penalty for them? It's the amount that they've put into escrow. So no matter how much is agreed upon in the contract, example is if they put $10,000 on the contract, but they've only put $5,000 in escrow, that's the amount that they lose. That's it. And that's the amount that they're going to be entitled to, or the seller's entitled to. So they can't go any further and ask for more money because that's what was in escrow at that time. So if they lose their job, they can't get financing, they can't close on the house, well, they've only lost about $5,000 or $10,000 in that case, whatever amount they've put into escrow. Generally in California, we're doing about a 3% deposit in most cases. So that's the maximum of what you should allow your client to put in. Now, in competitive cases, you can probably put 4%. I've done 5 or 7% in some cases on offers. But again, the maximum is still 3%. So the remainder would come back to the buyer, and the seller would only be able to take 3% of the total liquidated damages. It's an important provision. I mean, understanding this really can save your client a lot of money. It also saves you a lot of headache, knowing that you're not supposed to advise them on this information. You can get in some trouble potentially for this. Really just explain what this process means for them. Let them know of their potential guidelines of how much they can lose, what they cannot lose, why it's in their benefit, why it's not in their benefit, and then let them make the decision or ask their attorney about that. If you have any further questions, obviously, the CAR legal site, car.org, under legal sections, there is a Q&A about this specifically. I would advise you guys to really read through that. It has a lot of really good information for you. If you ever have questions about it, you can always get in touch with CAR Legal Services as well, or you can just get in touch with us. We can try to answer, one of your brokers here in California can answer the questions based on all the information that we have. That's all I have.
Thanks, Omar. Again, these things that we go over and repeat are so important to you guys. I wanted to compliment him for reminding you that do try to take the full 3%. Just this week in Riverside, we had a deal where the $5,000 certainly seemed sufficient, but it turned out when they fell out at 28 days that there was $7,000 in repairs that had already been completed and another $8,000 in septic that we were fast enough to put on hold. But the $5,000 didn't begin to cover the losses. I also wanted to mention that the 3% only applies to residential 1 to 4. If an investor is buying, the number can be anything at all. It only applies to residential 1 to 4. For an investor who's not going to live in the home, it can be any number at all. I also wanted to mention, and this is a little more complicated subject, and we can get into it later. Everybody should read the first line of a counteroffer. The very first printed line of a counteroffer says, things that are not, that require special initials that are not initialed are not part of this agreement. So when we counter transactions without having the seller sign the whole offer along with the counter offer, you're actually leaving out liquidated damages. It is a little known fact. It's one of the things you learn when you go take the car certification course. I recommend that people have some standard things they put in counteroffers, and one of them is that things that required initials that are not initialed here, specifically paragraph, the 2 paragraphs, and you can name them, are included in part of this agreement. So I was 20 years in business when I learned that, and it's a real stunner, and it absolutely could be used against you in court. So take a peek at the first line of any counteroffer, and you will see that if you did not complete the entire offer and pass it on, and the buyer, because the buyer in theory has already signed those things when they get to you, so if the seller did not accept them when he sent back the counteroffer, he actually excluded them from the offer, which honestly 90% of the time when we're arguing deposits we get away with, but that there, if we make it to court, an attorney's going to be smart enough to know that. So I want to make sure you guys know that. And then last but not least, Tom Bullock, our San Diego broker, has his tip for the day for you.
Good morning, everyone. Before I get started here, I want to thank Tommy and Ashton for their excellent presentation today. We really appreciate you taking the time to share your story and some of your business practices with us, so thank you for that. I'm going to be taking off in a different direction here a little bit from Jeff and Omar, and I'm going to be, tomorrow it starts September 1st, and we're working our way into the end of the year. It's flying by, but we are working our way into the end of the year. So I always have, when I was in production myself and when I became a manager and started managing and coaching, I always thought September was an excellent month to begin preparing for the next year. So in this case, preparing for 2017. And starting on September 9th, we'll be back doing in San Diego our broker training classes. And through the month of September, we're going to be talking and preparing our business plan for 2017. The first part of September, we're going to be talking about time in life. And by that I mean we're going to be talking about the truths about time. We're going to be talking about overwork takes its toll. We're going to be talking about time management tips. We're going to be talking about, and you've heard me say this before, business systems are critical for your business, particularly as you're growing. We're going to be talking about taking your business to the next level in 2017. One thing I've been reading and talking to a lot of different agents and brokers down here in San Diego that I know, and without a doubt everybody believes 2017 is going to be a fantastic year for all of us. So I think now is the time to be thinking about 2017 and what are you going to do to up your game. We're going to be doing a checkup from the neck up. You know, we're going to be talking. We're going to be kind of talking to you about what are you thinking? What's your holdback? You know, what are you doing to make sure that you keep your head up and in a positive space throughout all of 2017? So as you're taking your business to the next level, attitude won't be a problem there. We're going to be talking about your success in 2017 in a challenging market. I don't care if the market's good or bad. Every market has a challenge to it. And so we're going to be talking about the challenges that potentially 2017 can bring to you. And then last but not least, we're going to be talking about doing private coaching with me throughout the rest of this year as well as going into and throughout 2017. As we get to the end of September and going into October, I'm going to be talking about business plans. We're going to be discussing your goals for 2017. We're going to be talking about what's holding you back from being a real estate superstar. I want to know what your action plan is, what your marketing strategy for 2017. And we also want to be talking about and evaluating your business plan to see what has been working for you and what's not working for you in 2016. So if you don't have a business plan, then we'll be developing one for 2017. So I'm a firm believer, if you don't know where you're going, it's going to be hard to get there. And then last but not least, we're going to be doing what I call a start, stop, and change exercise. That'll be ongoing throughout the end of this year and throughout 2017, where we will be analyzing your business plan and finding out what we need to stop, what's absolutely not working in your business plan, and making adjustments there so you can be more effective with your time. Two, we're going to find out what is working, and so you can continue to do that, and then change. What do we need to change in your business plan so that you will be more successful and more challenging. So those are some of the things that we have coming up in San Diego over the next month to 2 months. And the whole point of the business plan, starting in September and going through October, is that the whole point is to make 2017 a 14-month year for you, so that you can hit the ground running in November and not January. So that way you will have business in the pipeline by the time January hits, and that will give you a full 14 months to build and to have the best year ever in your real estate business, as well as making you more money and more profit. So anyway, that's what's going on. And the first step in developing a business plan is that you really need to analyze your communication skills. That's critical to your business. If you want a client's commitment, you must up your game when it comes to that. You must treat a buyer's presentation appointment just like a seller's listing appointment presentation. The best agents I know in our business have excellent buyer presentations, and that's an element of our business that I see overlooked time and time again. As an agent, you want to command the respect of that buyer so that they're tied to you. So they're not out talking to you and 2 or 3 other agents and all of you are going after the same plan for them. So, again, you want to develop those type of communication skills. Along with your communication skills, you need to develop a comfort zone communication. And by that I mean you're going to be talking to them about statistics. You're going to be talking to them about how do you build, how do you find the house you want, your needs, your requirements, timing. But you also want to get into the personal aspect of it, because once you sell them a home and they close escrow, you want to have that ongoing commitment and communication with them for future business down the road, whether it be with them, their friends, their family, and again, that's where your business systems will come into play. You need to be able to speak a couple of languages, and by that I mean logical and emotional, and you need to be able to go back and forth between the two, logical and emotional. By logical, I mean you're going to be quoting statistics, you're going to be quoting facts to back up those statistics. On the same level, you need to be able to figure out what is their hot button, what's their emotional button, what are they looking for? Is it a large kitchen? Is it a single level? Is it a view? So those are things that you need to be thinking about for 2017, and how do you develop and enlarge and increase your business. And last but not least is the power of questions when it comes to communications. There are certain things that you need to find out and learn about your client, and a good way to learn that is through questions. And it's not hitting them with 100 questions up front like a machine gun. You need to develop the skill, the communication skill, of being able to ask questions in a friendly, open manner, and along the way develop some personal communications so that you're drawing up their personal story and connecting with them on that level as well. So that's what I have for today, and I want to thank you all for your time and listening to me today. And Mary Jane, I turn it back over to you.
Thank you. I love your logical and emotional. I already wrote that note and stuck it to my computer here. I wrote an article a month or so ago called Managing Expectations. It's on the frequently asked questions page. Many times I have conversations with clients, with agents who have a client who now has some sort of issue, and we all could have seen it coming and no one prepped them for it. So really managing those expectations. A great example that I deal with all the time is contingencies for sale or purchase of another property. 2 deals means double trouble, if you will. So when I tell people from the very, very beginning, and I actually learned this as an escrow officer, if I told people right from the very beginning that at the end one of us is going to be in the other one's way and that we'll have to do some juggling of moving or whatever, everyone goes through it smooth as no problem. When I fail to do that, I have expectations that didn't get managed, and I have moving trucks that I can't accommodate. So I really love the that was a good talk, Tom, and I appreciate that. Before we wrap up today, I want to just give a 10 seconds here to see if we have any questions from the listeners today. Anybody have a question for one of our, you have to type it in.
So far, it doesn't look like we have any questions.
Right. Well, Tommy and Ashton, thank you again for your time. You guys did a great job. Our brokers are always outstanding. We're grateful for all your hard work. And I think that takes care of it for this month. See you this time next month.
So thank you everyone so much for joining us. We would like to give a huge thank you to our guest speakers, Tommy and Ashton Taylor, and thank you to our brokers for another great Brokers Business Accelerator. We'll see you all next month.
Thanks.